all our learners, welcome to the lecture on Global Health, New Security Challenge in Global Affairs. I am Dr. Amna. I teach political science at Shyama Prasad Mukherjee College for Women, University of Delhi. In this lecture, we will try to explain that how issues of global health have become important. They have an important bearing in international relations. The lecture will look into aspects of globalization, climate change, human security, the role of World Health Organization, need for collective action to emphasize the significance of health as a new security threat in global affairs. Now, when we try to understand the health architecture, of course, there are news coming from everywhere. There is a definite recognition that the health architecture is under strain. There are causes which are ongoing and have potential to further the crisis. Then there's a debate, that is whether the pandemics and epidemics, have they been spurred by globalization or they are an impact of environmental change, or that it is a ramification of crowded world and that of population. Pandemic is a disease epidemic that has spread across a large region, for instance, multiple continents and worldwide. Epidemic is rapid spread of disease to a larger number of people given in a given population within a short period of time. The difference between them is important to understand. Epidemic is a term that is broadly used to describe any problem that has grown out of control. An epidemic is defined as an outbreak of a disease that occurs over wide geographic area and affects exceptionally high proportion of the population. The term pandemic relates to geographic spread, and it is used to describe a disease that affects the whole country or the entire world. Some of the very important facts when we try to understand global health: we heard about SARS virus in 2003. We heard about bird flu H5N1 in 2004. We heard about swine flu H1N1 in 2009. Outbreaks of hemorrhagic fever like Ebola. A massive spread of Ebola virus happened in March 2014 across West Africa, particularly in Liberia, Sierra Leone, which killed approximately 11,300 people. So, therefore, international health cooperation is important. Let's have a historical insight into the aspect of international health. International health cooperation began, we can say, if we are to trace, in 1851, when the government representatives gathered in Paris for the International Sanitary Conference to address the spread of cholera. Since then, development of basic health practices and advances in medical technology, that is vaccines, antibiotics, diagnostics, have countered many public health risks. Dramatic social, political, economic, environmental and demographic changes are expected to increase the conditions that give rise to pandemics and other public health crisis. Today, when we look at the world population, this is some of the data that we are quoting from UN, it's growing at a rate of 1.1% per year approximately. So, there has been a dramatic change, a way in which humanity inhabits and interacts with the planet. The planet, we all know, is becoming more crowded. Urbanization, ongoing industrialization pose further challenge. The demand for food and water is outstripping supply. There's scarcity of fuels, conflicts and violence. Natural disasters are becoming more severe. Epidemic and pandemic diseases such as influenza, malaria, Ebola, tuberculosis, HIV, SARS, they pose additional threats to public health. Building the capacity of national healthcare system, the need to rethink as to how to strengthen approaches to manage global health are therefore very much needed. Now, the greatest pandemic threat, if we are to look, influenza viruses, that is H5N1 virus outbreak in 2003, H1N1 epidemic in 2009, H797 epidemic in China, or to talk about the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 to 1920, which was the deadliest influenza outbreak in modern history, killing somewhere about 50 and 100 million people. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, that was a viral respiratory illness caused by coronavirus called as SARS, associate coronavirus. SARS reappeared in 2002 in China. It spread worldwide within a few months and was quickly contained. SARS is a virus transmitted through droplets that enter the air when someone with disease coughs, sneezes or talks. Ebola virus disease, that was a rare and deadly disease in the people and non-human primates. That virus caused EVD are located mainly in the sub-Saharan Africa. People could get EVD through direct contact with an infected animal or bat or non-human primate or sick or dead person infected with the virus. Beginning in 2013, West Africa experienced worst outbreak of Ebola in history. The outbreak was just not a health crisis. It evolved into a social, humanitarian, development, economic crisis. The current use of natural resources is often debated as whether this current use of natural resources sustainable enough or is it unsustainable, which are having major consequences for human health. Let me quote Dr. Lincoln Chen's comments in his address to the Helsinki Process Track on human security. That is, human security may be defined as consisting of human survival, livelihoods, dignity. Poor health, that is illness, injury, disability, are critical threats to human security and of many health problems those concerned. Many germane to human security are health crises during conflict, humanitarian emergencies, infectious diseases that are the primary problems. Now, we all know that the world today is looked at as a global world. Globalization is nothing new. It existed in the past also. But today the world is rapidly connected, dependent and interdependent. Globalization is driven and constrained also by a number of forces. We have economic processes, technological developments, the political influence, the cultural synchronization, value system, social and natural environment. At the same time, there are varied forces that are part of the processes of globalization. They impact directly and indirectly on health on a number of levels. As globalization spreads across the world, there has to be understanding as to how wide-ranging changes are leading to rise of new forms of infectious diseases. At the macro level, when we look at changes that can influence the global level of resources available to government for health expenditure, when we look at examples from Asian financial crisis 1990s that has similar impact on the public health spending, and how trade liberalization is having an impact on the epidemiology of infectious diseases too, is also being researched, debated, analyzed by various international organizations and other academic forums. Today, there is a concern that whether trade in specific products may have a more direct impact on infectious diseases. Economic changes also lead to migration and to alterations in land use and water requirements, which may in turn may have impact on infectious diseases. Trend towards globalization of food industry, huge increases in international trade have transformed the availability of food products, particularly for inhabitants of high income countries. Then how changes in dietary habits, large agrochemicals, TNCs are involved in increasingly globalized food industry and account for 85% of the world market. Then very important inputs that we are all stating right now from a very important report by the World Health Organization. The report is titled as a review of the linkages. How today there are concerns over food chain, including agricultural production, processing, packaging, transporting, marketing. So therefore, it's very important to look into this report by World Health Organization, that is Globalization and Infectious Diseases, a review of the linkages. Now, global average land and sea surface temperatures are rising. We all call it by global warming. In this increasing frequency of weather conditions in many parts of the world, that is can be seen in the form of climate change. Definitely there are the researches and work being done by the World Health Organization that presents to us evidence of association between climate change conditions and infectious diseases. Example here from again WHO work, malaria is a great public health concern and seems likely it's like a vector-borne disease more sensitive for long-term climate change. Malaria varies seasonally in high endemic areas. Human security, we all know, it's an emerging paradigm for understanding global vulnerabilities whose proponents challenge the traditional notion of security by arguing that proper referent for security should be the individual, the human, rather than the state or the national level. The United Nations Development Programme 1994 Human Development Report is considered a milestone publication in the field of human security, with this argument that ensuring freedom from want and freedom from fear for all persons is the best path to tackle the problem of global insecurity. Human security has 7 dimensions: economic security, food security, health security, environmental security, personal security, community security, and political security. Now, when we look at human security, health is an important variable there. This health is connected to the food, to the environment, to the society, to the aspects of economic activity. Now, global pandemics challenge state security in 3 key ways, that is domestically, economically, and military too. Let's have a look at them. At the domestic level, we see that the greatest threat to state security impacts are on the family life, the health care, and the costs that are there on for getting medical facilities. Savings are depleted. There is changes in food consumption matters, malnutrition, poverty worsens, amongst others, and all of it, they pose a challenge, the scale of the challenge on the state legitimacy. Then global pandemics which force increased government spending on health may reduce productivity due to workers being unable to work, could reduce foreign investment due to lack of confidence in market stability. Then understandable from a foreign and a security perspective that issues of global health have become increasingly securitized as they pose risk to domestic population, regional stability, and economic growth. Very important aspect from the work by McLean and Lee. States have shifted their attention towards human security, but we find this is happening in the post-Cold War era, broadening their security agendas to incorporate issues such as health and environment. Very important work at this hub that we must look into while looking into how pandemics pose a challenge to not only domestic, economic and individual security, but also there are cause of concern for nations at the policy level and also for global international cooperation also. The work by S. Peterson, Epidemic Disease and National Security from Security Studies, very important for one to refer. The work by N. Stephenson, Emerging Infectious Disease, Emerging Forms of Biological Sovereignty, that is from Science, Technology and Human Values. Global Pandemics, a Security Threat, a very important work that is there available online by EIR, that is by Joseph Jagat. The World Health Organization, when we look at the institutional parameters, it is a specialized agency of the United Nations that is concerned with world public health. It was established on 7th April 1948 and is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. The WHO is a member of United Nations Development Group. Its predecessor, the Health Organization, we all know, was an agency of the League of Nations. The World Health Organization is a body of United Nations responsible for directing and coordinating health. As such, WHO has come into play a very vital role as an actor in the field of international public health and international public health policy as well. Today 7th April is followed every year as World Health Day, and this is dedicated to the day when WHO, with its constitution, came into force. The main areas of work wherein for health systems are health through life course, non-communicable and communicable diseases, preparedness, looking into surveillance, response, and cooperative other services. Very important inputs that we got about the World Health Organization from their website who.int. Now, poverty and health also have a very important stake for global affairs and policies of domestic nationals. That is poverty, poor sanitation, malnutrition, hunger, lack of clean drinking water. They contribute to the spread of infectious diseases. While on the other hand, disease and infections exacerbate poverty, and therefore it becomes a vicious cycle. Today, when we look at some facts, that is more than 2.6 billion people worldwide live without basic sanitation. 1.1 billion people in developing countries had inadequate access to water. And all of it we are quoting from some very authentic sources. That is how poverty and infectious diseases are considered to be fellow travelers. Health security is an important dimension, therefore, for human security. Good health is a condition both for essential and instrumental to human survival, livelihood, dignity. Good health of population is also important for social cohesion and stability. So, therefore, when we look at how health and human security are closely related and significance of health in achieving human security, 7 out of 8 Millennium Development Goals also involve health. To name it for you, MDG 1, eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. MDG 4, reduce child mortality. MDG 4 again, improve maternal health. MDG 6, combat HIV, AIDS, malaria and other diseases. With the aim of achieving health security, many programs have been launched. And this also points for inputs towards how international solidarity is there in order to ensure health for all. The international legal framework of World Health Organization was revised. Institutions were established like Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, Global Health Security Initiative. Strategic documents were adopted to fight major infectious diseases. And in May 2014, the World Health Assembly passed a resolution in support of post-2015 global TB strategy, setting up a goal of reducing TB mortality by 95% between 2015 and 2035. Some very important inputs that we get from human security, humansecuritycourse.info, must refer to it in order to get deeper insight as to how human health, global health are today very important security threats. In May 2015, WHO adopted the Global Technical Strategy for Malaria 2016 to 2030, aiming to globally reduce malaria incidence and mortality rates by at least 90%. In September 2015, the United Nations General Assembly adopted Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, in which international community pledged, amongst other things, to eliminate AIDS epidemic being a threat to public health. Again, some very important information from humansecuritycourse.info. That is how many countries are adopting strategy to fight again infectious diseases, and at the same time in their national security strategies recognizing infectious disease and pandemics as threats not only to human security but also to national and global security. Once again, some very important piece of information that we got from humansecuritycourse.info. So therefore, when we look at pros and cons of globalization are being debated. Is globalization beneficial force or not? Is at the same time, when we are talking about improving lives of billions, providing new jobs, new interconnections, at the same time this increasing interconnectedness of our world presented to us an unforeseen threat in forms of rise of pandemics, epidemics, new kinds of infectious diseases. The new infectious diseases, once which were limited in their impact, diseases like by the isolation of population wherein they are most likely to emerge, today diseases are now increasingly nearly having an immediate access to trade and transportation networks in which few, if any, parts of the globe are more than 24 hours apart. In prehistoric period, most populations were too small to maintain chains of infectious for highly contagious disease. Today, epidemics might occur, but pandemics only become possible when human population had grown and structure of society also at the same time has changed. We know that there was smallpox outbreak in the 16th century. Then today the knowledge of diseases, how the spread has improved, bacteria and viruses evolved rapidly, and at the same time more pathogens emerge as urban centers growth. Today, with the second phase of globalization, and today we are in the new version of globalization, that is digital globalization, digital revolution, globalization 4.0. How at the same time today multipolar world, governments, multilateral institutions, non-government organization, academia, private sector, all have to work together to prepare for the global threat of pandemics with the scale and urgency opposite to the danger that we face. Richard Hacklett's work, that is Can Fourth Wave of Globalization Help to End Pandemics, at worldeconomicforum.org, gives us some very insignificant insights as to how global health is an important issue. Coronavirus, that's a large family of viruses that cause illnesses ranging from common cold to more severe diseases. Today, social distancing is being discussed in order to refer to actions taken to stop or slow down the spread of contagious diseases. Then at the same time, many unknowns surrounding the trajectory of epidemic and responses from governments and business forecasters. One has to look as to how today financial markets are also under alarm with the rise of new health threat. So therefore, it's very important to reflect on how global health is important, express solidarity by refraining from unessential acts, and how it is important to look into that the need for adequate care implies joint solidarity. Unprecedented challenges that affect us, and no country can address it alone. So therefore, it's very essential to have a joint thoughtful action in the form of creating of solidarity fund, global solidarity response fund, amongst others, in order to tackle the challenge and also keep into account at how global health is very important, not only for the individual level, but also it has huge implications for national and global challenges. So once again, dear listeners, we hope you liked all the insights presented to you in the lecture on global health, presenting new security threats for individual, nation and global apparatus. Thank you very much for being with us for the lecture.